Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And today we have the cast and crew of Alone with You. We have Justin Brooks, Emily Bennett, and the legendary Barbara Crampton joining us. So I want to thank all three of you for coming on the show and talking about Alone with You. It's a great movie. And for our audience that doesn't know, the movie is being released in theaters February 4th. And then 4 days later, it is coming out wide on video on demand. Is that correct, Justin and Emily?
Yeah.
That's correct. And we'll have a DVD as well.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Barbara, it's been a year. You are
Nice to see you.
you're a
Yeah.
returning alumni. How you been this past year?
I'm feeling really hopeful, John. I'm feeling like we're coming out of this and we're learning to live with this virus and things seem to be getting better. I know there's still a lot of issues and problems and, but I do think if you so choose to handle it and deal with it, I think we've been given the tools to be able to.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. So let's talk about Alone with You. I saw this movie last week. I'm really excited about it. Justin and Emily, you guys co-wrote and you co-directed the film.
Yes.
My first question is to Emily. You are in every scene of this film. How did the co-directing exactly work with you?
That's a great question. It worked. It was kind of a dance. Honestly, most of the direction, co-writing this film helped us kind of approach the directing very early. So a lot of the direction went into pre-production for this, really planning on how we were going to approach this, how we were going to make a film like this feel larger and honestly more evergreen than just a COVID film or a film made during a pandemic. So a lot of discussion went in, storyboarding, shot listing, obviously the casting and casting the brilliant Barbara Crampton and Dora Madison, Emma Miles, like a lot of that. They did a lot of heavy lifting for us as well. But honestly, in the shooting of the film, we have a really great shorthand. We've made a lot of short films together before this, and I'm often on camera. And I've developed a kind of muscle where I love storyboarding and shot listing and kind of developing what the look of the day is and what we're going to capture for the day. And then I just kind of switch departments and I go in front of the camera. And then when we cut, it becomes a kind of back and forth. Did we get it? Okay, actually, I'd like to try another one of these. That becomes very logical and always working towards story. Sometimes I can feel when I'm like, okay, I think I got that. Did I? But it's always checking in with each other. And same with Justin. Like if he was like, I could have gotten a shot. Can we go again so that we can get this? So honestly, it was a lot. It was a conversation, and thank God because we were alone together.
Yeah.
So we were supporting each other the whole time.
I think most of the direction when it comes to Emily and I, if she's on screen, which of course she was the entire film, because we wrote the character together and because we had conversations about Charlie time and time and time and time again. Most of the directing of where that character emotionally would go happened before we started shooting. So we actually had built a really strong base of where we were going together in the direction of each scene, so that when we were on the day, it was really kind of minor adjustments and tweaks. It was no real there was no need to really dig into the direction of the character on the day because we were pretty synced up on what that would be.
You guys came in very well prepared. Now, Barbara, you have a small but significant role in this film. You play Emily's mom. And I think this is the first time that I have seen you play a devoted Christian woman in a horror film. Has it?
Maybe. I've played some complicated caretakers before.
Yeah.
In a couple of movies. And in King Knight, which is also coming out a week later, I play another sort of unforgiving, sort of, set in her ways mother. Yeah. but not very often.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with this project? Did you read the script? Did they
Uh-huh.
approach you? Did they send you the script and you fell in love with it? How did it unfold?
Well, I didn't know Emily and Justin, but I knew the casting director, David, and I knew some of the films that the producers had done. Andrew Corkin was involved, and his partner, Theo James, he is an actor, has done a lot of great work. And so they said, this is a really good script. You should just read it. So I read it and I really was surprised. It was very well written. And as a horror fan myself and having done so many films, I can kind of see where things are going, or I think I do. And with this movie, I was surprised because there was this sense of dread and panic and franticness that I could feel in the words and in the story. And I thought that that was captured really well
Hmm.
just in the narrative, but then where it was going was a complete surprise to me. And as a horror fan, I was really delighted by that.
Hmm.
And the character of the mom is important, as you say, in terms of understanding the arc to Emily's character, Charlene, and where she's going and where she came from. And as I've gotten older, I really enjoy playing characters that have this kind of complicated emotional depth. And I felt like she had that. And, she has a complicated relationship with her daughter. And I have a good relationship with my children, thank goodness. But that also, helps inform me how to play scenes,
Yeah.
about being a mom. And I don't have to sort of guess and make it up in my head. But I really, I really enjoy in my life, and I've been doing this for 40 years, as far as I feel like I'm always working with emerging filmmakers. I did that with Stuart Gordon, in the very
Hmm.
beginning of his career. I made his first movie.
Yeah.
And I worked with Adam Wingard. And, look where he is now,
Yeah.
when I made Your Next. And I feel like I did that with Brandon Christensen, another emerging kind of filmmaker. He did Z and Stillborn, and I was in his movie Superhost. And I kind of feel the same way about these guys, Emily and Justin. They're emerging filmmakers who really have a strong voice and have something to say and do it really well. And they're a dynamic duo. And, I've said this before, but it's like they came on the scene and now I feel like they've always been here, because I know that we're going to be hearing a lot more
Hmm.
of them, coming up. And they really made a great impact on the festival circuit with this film. And they got some great reviews. And so I feel lucky and I feel proud to be a part of this film, with these guys who I think are really so talented.
Now, one more question with you, Barbara. This is a smaller role than what you've done in the recent past. Was that an issue with you, or did you have no problem? You just wanted to be a part of this project?
Yeah, I mean, I hold to the cliche, if you will, that there are no small parts, only small actors. And
Mhm.
for me, there's films. I mean, I was just offered a role in a film that was a really big part, and I turned it down for different reasons.
Hmm.
And it would have taken me to England for like a month, and
Wow.
and it paid really well, and it was really hard to try to down. But I didn't feel. That's another story. I didn't feel mentally prepared for that movie because they wanted to cast me like right before they started filming, and I was like, I don't have enough time to work on this part. I'm not going to do a good job. I mean, it's just no time.
Absolutely.
So people, if you're casting your movies, make sure you cast them way in advance, because actors like to have time with the material to work on it. They don't just show up and say the words. But I feel like if I'm going to accept a part, for me, I have to feel like I can support the filmmaker's vision and their story and what they want to say, because my job as an actor is to do that. It is
Yes.
to service the material. And if I feel like I can service the material and I think the material is good, and also for me, if it has something of an arc, if it has something that you understand, it has some beginning, middle, and end, then I feel better about my presence in the movie, whether
I wasn't
it's
able
big
to
or
connect
small.
your
Does it?
device.
That's Alexa.
You know.
I'm sorry. She likes to chime in.
Alexa, we're having a moment here.
Alexa, do not disturb.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter to me.
Is already enabled.
I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah,
She
it doesn't
wants
matter to me.
steal the
With,
show.
she does. Yeah. Pretty soon the machines are going to take over, like in Chopping Mall. It's just gonna-
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
But I
Yeah.
have to say, like, while Barbara's time on screen is not, I mean, it's a small part within the film. The character's impact is
Yeah.
felt throughout the entire
yeah.
movie. It's such an important character that could not be thrown away by any means. That
No.
had to be somebody that was going to
Mhm.
put the care into that character as Barbara does. And it's such an important moment that is carried through by Charlie's character throughout the rest of the film.
Well, and people have asked me, you know, what is it like being in every frame of the film, or you know, carrying a film, and I could never think of it that way. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. You
Yeah.
know, that's a terrifying prospect. Like, carry a film, no.
Yeah.
But I know how to play a character, and I know how to play. I know how to develop relationships, and we wrote the character of the mother. That's a deep relationship, and that first scene, Barbara, the one that you read and said that you enjoyed so much, we worked through that so much, because that there's so much history there, and there's so much about who Charlie is, and
Yeah.
who I had to become and really know. So that history and developing that with you was just invaluable, and really constructing who Charlie is.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fun of working on a character, is working with the other people that are in the movie, whether it's the director or the other actor. I mean, you're always trying to formulate your character and your point of view about what you're doing. And that to me is exciting, because as much as the horror genre is about fear and dealing with fear, it's also about empathy and trying to,
and the human
right?
psyche itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
you don't fear for a character unless you're empathetic for that character. You
Yeah.
have to understand. You know, we are afraid in horror movies because we put ourselves in those positions. So
Yeah.
you need to give them somebody that they can have that window into the film. You know, and
Right.
Barbara's character is such a window into who Charlie is,
Mhm.
and so important. Like, that scene is so unbelievably important in telling us who our character is. That it needed somebody with the gravity that Barbara brings to her characters.
Absolutely. Now, the movie has several supporting characters throughout to help tell the story. When it came to the mother and you guys were writing her up, what was your feelings when you found out that Barbara Crampton might be interested in taking on this role?
We called our families. We were like, I mean, we kept it pretty quiet, obviously, but we were just like, are we doing this? This is, this is thrilling. And obviously we had seen so much of her work, but like her current work, like her more recent work, and I know Your Next is 10 years ago. I know you and Simon Barrett just celebrated that in LA, but it's
So cool.
Your Next, and then Channel Zero, like your upcoming work is, your current work is just so strong. Like, your craft is just so great to watch on screen. And so when we found out, obviously the fans in us were excited, but I personally was excited selfishly to act with you, and to have someone of your caliber to act against it. It really made me kind of sit up straight and say, okay, we're doing something here.
I think and I mean, Barbara is regarded as an icon for a reason. She's her work means something. All her films are like, they mean something to the horror community and the history of horror film. And I think for me, it was so special, really, because there are those familiar faces in horror we see again and again and again, and we love when we see them, but they're out there, and they're in everything, you know. It's fun. Barbara is not one of those people. Like, she she is really she has been very picky with what she's decided to
Hmm.
attach herself to, and so
Mm.
when we heard that ours had sparked her interest, of course, that like unbelievably flattering. Like that was so exciting. And as Emily said, I mean, it's of course fans, that we were so thrilled, but that fandom quickly just got melted away with how unbelievably easy Barbara was to work with. It,
Yeah.
it just became old friends, and just
Yeah.
she's so giving as an actor. It was wonderful to watch.
Well, thank you. I feel the same about you guys. I mean, because I saw it in the writing, I thought the writing was so good. And then when I met you and we were working together on Zoom and all three of us were together, I really felt like even in rehearsals, Emily was able to touch some parts of herself that I wouldn't normally see, just in a rehearsal. And I felt like you were really open, and there just has to be a give and take. And, for me, it's all about authenticity.
Hmm.
And and if you can authentically illuminate a character or use yourself in an authentic way, I think even that is really hard to get to. It's really
Yeah.
hard. Like a lot of people can't do that. You see the character and you don't see them really living the moment and really, being that person. And I could tell with you that you were already there,
Oh yeah.
and right? I mean, your
Emily,
performance is
I,
amazing.
I want to
Yeah.
focus this on
Hmm.
you. And like Barbara just said, you were phenomenal as an actress in this movie. I mean,
Hmm.
you
Thank-
drew me in as an audience member within like the first 5 minutes. You had me feeling a range of emotions. A part of me wanted to smack you in the back of the head and say, stand up for yourself, And then another part of me felt sympathy for you and no, no, your partner is not doing this stuff behind your back. She loves you, and you're getting
Mm.
ready to celebrate your anniversary. And the film is done in a very artistic way. Like I said, there's beautiful imagery to when the film actually concludes, and sort of like the big reveal happens in the end. That even that is still left up to viewer interpretation. Did that really happen? We don't
Hmm.
understand. We don't understand throughout the whole movie is, are you losing your mind? Are these things that are going on around you real? Are they all in your imagination? So
Mm.
you as an actress and having to go through all these different emotions, what kind of tricks did you do? I don't want to use the word tricks, but what kind of places did you put yourself into to bring all that to the screen?
I really had to ground Charlie into a reality, quite frankly, because we take this film into very into surreality, into the surreal and the um yeah, like you said, the hallucinogenic, and so as I worked with Charlie, once we had written her, once she was on the page, I start mapping out the emotional journey through the film. In case we can't really shoot in chronological order, I need to know, on what day, where am I here, and in what context, so that the continuity of the film makes sense. But two, I build playlists. I create music.
Which is very popular amongst actors. Almost all of them,
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
create some sort of playlist to help them get into the character they're going to play.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And I learned that, I trained as an actor in London. I went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and I'm theater trained. So all of that theater background, some of it's useful on film, some of it's not, but the preparation is always useful. And so that was one lesson that my an instructor, D Cannon, always told me. And so I made a playlist, mine and Simone's playlist, and I got into a really romantic, this is the best night. This is going to be the greatest evening. It's so romantic, and and then things just keep they keep going wrong. And so the important thing to have those little moments hit you, the disappointments and then the fear, as things continue to kind of descend, I have to start, my reality is loving and warm and excited. And so I had to create where I started in a very real internal place for myself, and to genuinely be surprised when things weren't going well. And then to create that rich backstory. Barbara, as we talked with you in the script phase, as we were still kind of shaping a few things, you had some great input into your character as well. And we shifted a couple of things because it did make more sense, because a character doesn't exist without the actor who plays that character. So honestly, shifting that just slightly, and we didn't do very much, but it made it feel more grounded for you. And because it felt more grounded for you, it felt more grounded for me. And that's where we have to start. You have to start with relationship, and you have to start with what is your given circumstances.
Right. I mean, just like in acting 101, you go back to, if I was this character in this situation, what would I do?
Yeah.
It's not what you do, because everybody plays Hamlet differently. So, it has to filter through your instrument and who you are as a person. So there always is a little bit of you in every single character. And if you don't do that, then you're playing a cliche or a character that isn't going to ring true. And an audience member knows that. They're not going to be able to connect to you if they don't feel like you're being authentic and using parts of yourself.
Yeah, it has to be.
Absolutely.
You have to be a person, and I think that was important to us. I mean, it's so funny how Emily and I talk about this a lot. The blurred line between the actor and the writer. They share a lot of commonalities, and the way an actor approaches a character is very much in sync with the way a writer should approach that character. And from the get-go, our job was to make real people, not characters. Like the mother hurts Charlie, but she's not a villain. She's not a, nothing is villainous about her. And Charlie is flawed. She's a real person. She loves and she hates, and she messes up and she does well, so
spills a lot of wine.
And she has to be real, and all the characters in this, that was very important to us, that we had actors in place that were going to understand the reality of the character and really ground everything.
Now, Barbara, your interaction with Emily in the movie is done through virtual video conference, like what we're doing now. As an actor, was that difficult, acting with a partner that's not physically right in front of you?
You'd think it would be. And I'd say probably in the early part of my career, maybe it would have been more difficult. But as you're working in movies so many times, you might have a close-up on you, and the other actor can't stand next to you anyway because there's no room. So they'll put a little piece of green tape on the camera, and you have to look at the green tape, and that's the other actor's eyes. Yeah. And you got to look at that green tape, and you have to believe that that's the other person. And if you've rehearsed enough with, in this case with Emily, we rehearsed on Zoom, and Justin was there, and we talked about the scenes a lot. I knew kind of what was coming. I mean, and you can play with nuance and things that happen in the moment, but I knew where we were going, and I knew the map of emotionally where those guys wanted me to be. So it's not too hard. I mean, and to illuminate another point, I've been in many movies where the actor can't be there, or maybe there's like a head explosion or some weird thing, because I work in the horror business, and you'll have to see it. There'll be a C-stand with like a sock and a ball. You tie the sock onto the C-stand, and that's what you have to look at. But you're always still hearing the other actor's voice, your scene partner's voice, and that really, you can just use that. I mean, that's enough. So these are things you just have to get used to. It's just like, like Emily was talking about earlier, and I find this so interesting as an actor because I love this process so much. You really do have to map out emotionally where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of make little notations in the margins of a script. And sometimes I actually will make a map. I'll make a map. And on my map, you know, the heightened emotional level is here. And then I have something else on the bottom. And I actually draw like a graph, like where my character is. Wow. And I do, and the music, I do the same thing. I think of music that's going to inspire me for every scene. And I try to listen to that music right before the scene so that I have, like you're talking about tricks, it really is like a bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Because you have all these things that you have been taught when you've been in school or, you know, things that you learn working on sets with other people. And then you can pull from those when you need them. So there's like different techniques that you can use while you're working. Yeah. And sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. I mean, sometimes I'll be in a scene with somebody and if for, you know, the gods are shining on us and, you know, everything feels right and the emotion is right. It's just there. Yeah. And other times you have to use emotional recall and think of something that happened in your own life that makes you sad or makes you mad or makes you happy or whatever. And then you have to use that little moment and then trick your brain and then focus it on what's happening right now. You know, you just try little things and something's always going to work as long as you have those bag of tricks, as you say.
Wow. I mean, you are ultra, prepared and you do above and beyond. I mean,
this is why I say you've got to cast people in advance. If you want somebody to do a good job, you know,
absolutely.
You need to give them. I mean, I worked on this movie, Jacob's Wife, a couple of years ago, and we were going back and
forth.
Which
was
about
a
the
big
casting.
hit, by the way.
Yeah, it did well. And then, you know, I and the other producers and Travis and I, we were going back and forth about a few people. And I was like, you guys, come on, we have to pick somebody. And they're like, what? We have like a week. I said, yeah, we only have a week. I mean, it's just perception. I said, actors want the material as soon as possible. Yeah. Most people do. Most people do. I worked with one actor. I don't know if you guys are probably too young to remember. Do you remember Stacy Keach, the actor Stacy Keach? Yeah. Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
I think I do. I'm not positive. Okay. Yeah.
You'd have to look him up. He had a series called, forget the name of the series. Like, maybe somebody on the chat will say, oh, what was the name of that series? Anyway, I worked with him on a movie. He learned his lines in the morning while we were getting our makeup on. My camera. Thank you, my camera. And I didn't work with him on my camera. It was a movie, but I had several scenes with him and he didn't know what he was going to say until he got there. And that, you know, those kinds of actors, you know, they just show up and they're just them in every movie. Mm-hmm. Not saying he's not a good actor. I mean, he was a good actor and, you know, whatever, but I'm just not that kind of actor.
Everybody has their own methods. Now, Justin, Emily, when it came to the third act, the end, the big reveal, how did you guys play with a lot of different scenarios on how you were going to wrap this movie up? Did you have a lot of alternate endings you were playing with, or was it always known this was how you were going to go?
I don't want to sound boring, but I think we always knew where it was going to go. Yeah. I mean, we thought about how we were going to tell that story in different ways, but no, the ending, honestly, I find as a writer, this is my advice for anyone. If you're like, oh, I'm writing a few projects right now, which should I go with? Go with the one you know how it ends. Go with that one because you're going to get to the ending. You're going to keep writing because every film should kind of bookend, should kind of turn on itself. We should start in one place and kind of return to that place, but in a fully different way. Just artistically, however, that's just how I approach things. And so we always knew the ending of this. We thought about shooting it differently, but yeah, we always knew where Charlie was going to end up.
Yeah, I think most of this time spent was really on the journey to that end, you know, and how to tell that and where to go that steers us in appropriately and brings our character to the logical end of the film.
Hmm.
If I if I want to, if you guys were to guess, I mean, you guys wrote it. You may have an idea of when the pivot point is that leads us to that ending reveal. At
Mhm.
which point in the movie, if you want to share this, does that actually occur?
Uh-huh.
I'm putting that very vaguely. I don't want to give any spoilers away,
Mhm.
but at which stage in the movie, first, second act, did that moment occur that pivots the whole movie?
That's
That's a tricky one. I
yeah,
know.
yeah,
I know.
I mean, I will say we again, this is one of those things that we know the movie that we made, that we wanted to make and intended to make. I don't necessarily want to tell that to the audience because I
Okay.
want them
Mm.
to take what their interaction with the film is just as valuable. So
Absolutely. And this
yes,
is a perfect example of a film where you give it to the audience and ask them, here, what do you make of this?
Hmm.
Okay?
yeah,
Mm.
Because there is no really right or wrong answer. It's how the audience is going to interpret it. Was that your intention from the
yeah.
beginning?
It was most certainly. I mean, we were very careful though because I this is an easy film and this is an easy film to accidentally misdirect an audience. If we had made a
Mhm.
mistake continuity wise, or if we had forgot to pick up that one cup, you know, like
Mm.
that messes with the audience's idea of what is going on. So
Mm.
what we planned on this also was a huge help when planning out the emotional arc, but we shot chronologically for that reason.
Mostly
Yeah.
chronologically, as much as we could, just to
That's so
have.
nice that you were
Oh,
able to
I
do
mean,
that. I
as
mean,
an actor, Barbara, like, what a gift.
yeah.
I mean, we hope to do that for, as much as possible in
But
our careers, obviously. But it's
this was important.
this
Yeah.
this was very important, partially because we didn't have anyone to lean on for like physical continuity for literally,
Yeah.
pictures on walls and things like that. But I will say, in to answer your question, which isn't probably the answer you want. Um,
Well, I'm
we
curious as a fan as to,
Hmm.
when that's why I asked it.
Right.
Well, I think that this film is very subjective. We're seeing this film through Charlie's point of view.
Hmm.
So I think as long as you follow her perception and her realizations through the film, I think she kind of she will guide you.
Hmm.
And I will say overall, we absolutely know the film we shot.
Yeah.
We know the film that we wrote. We know the film that we shot. I know fully what happens in this movie. We know fully what happens in this movie, but what we think doesn't really matter now because
Yeah.
it's about to be in
Hmm.
the world.
Exactly.
So we're not here to tell people, to teach people how to watch
Yeah.
this film. We want to
Yeah.
hear what they think.
But I want to also I want the audience to know that nothing is without intention. Like we did not try to misdirect just to mess with anybody. This film is very intentional. Everything in it points
Incredibly intentional.
is a piece of its
Hmm.
storytelling.
Well,
And
you crafted it. Really think you crafted it, and also you can tell that by the way you shot it, and it looks beautiful.
Hmm.
Thank
For inside of an apartment movie,
It
it has
is.
a lot of different lighting cues,
No, the imagery
and
is amazing.
the way the camera moves through the apartment is very impactful. I think people will be really surprised by that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I was.
it's crafted. It's a crafted film, really.
I
You know,
would go as far
yeah.
as saying it's a very artsy, art house
Hmm.
type
Hmm.
film because of the great cinematography behind it. Now, is Charlie uh, the product of her mother's strict religious upbringing?
That is certainly her past and her reality when she was younger. We developed an entire backstory of when Charlie left
Hmm.
home, what moment that was, was it in the middle of the night and she escaped, or was it? So we did work that out quite very intensely. And Charlie is a product of that, but honestly, I found that my mannerisms as Charlie, I constructed her to be a bit delicate and a bit romantic and a bit kind of confined. She's not sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
She spills wine a lot, as I've said, but she's not a heavy-footed woman. She's delicate and she's careful. Flowers and records and moments and smells. I wanted her to feel very romantic. Yeah, and I think a lot of that, those physical mannerisms do come from her mother. And, just kind of understanding the way that Barbara carries herself informed the way that I constructed Charlie a bit. I won't say that, I went incredibly deeply into that, but just seeing how Barbara's mannerisms were when we were working with her, I was like, okay, that's how she moves a little bit. And, the kind of the necklace that you wear in the film, Barbara, which is your necklace in real life, understanding like you wear jewelry, you're a woman who, I took pieces of that. And then from that kind of structure, that's where Charlie's from. That's her home when she was a child, taking that and then deconstructing that and really kind of ripping her apart. And Charlie goes through a lot of transformations through this film. So it's really important to understand, to have a clear view of where you're starting and where you're ending, because they need to be different.
Now, what really stood out to me watching this film after a while is, Justin, you said everything in this film is intentional, and I assume that applies to the dialogue as well. Is the amount of times, Emily, your character says, "I'm sorry." Okay, I think that is a big tell into someone's psyche. Okay. Oh, even calling 911, you felt you were bothering them, and saying, I'm sorry I had to call 911. And it goes deep into the mindset of Charlie. So how important was that to the script and to show us exactly the kind of person that Charlie is?
It's incredibly important. And I think there's a lot of Charlie in me, certainly in my past, and in a younger version of Emily Bennett. I think there's a lot of Charlie there. The I'm sorry, I don't want to bother anybody. And I think as a woman, we have that. I know I have to tell myself, like, don't apologize, and I don't think I'm not as much like Charlie in that regard. If I'm calling 911, I'm calling 911. Like, they need to come and help me right now. But it's incredibly important because Charlie is very unsure of who she is. She comes from a background that doesn't support who she is now. She's found herself. She's found the woman that she loves, which doesn't really compute with her mother's morals and how she was brought up. So Charlie isn't sure where she fits in. And I think that comes with trepidation and feeling like she's imposing. But at the same time, Charlie, she deserves a place in the world. She's just trying to find where that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite little things, this was actually Emily just on the day, but she had just gotten off the phone with her super, and all she was doing was telling him, your apartment door doesn't work. You need to come fix this. But she just gets off and like thinks to herself, she goes, stupid. Like, just already like commenting on her own ability to leave a voice message. And that's definitely, I mean, like I said,
Charlie, that's not me.
Right.
If I'm calling my super, he needs to fix the door.
That was very involved in like I said earlier, we talked about Charlie so much. There is a lot of story involving Charlie that's not in that script or not in front of the camera. Like, we had to know who she was, and that had to be told through Emily's mannerisms, and also and thank you for mentioning the camera work, but that was very important to help support Charlie and the character that she was. Is that camera and the visuals had to be as linked to her as we possibly could.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because you can't shoot this
Yeah.
film with typical
No.
coverage. Like,
Yeah.
there's no over the shoulder really. I mean, I guess you could shoot over the shoulder to the computer and the phone, but
Mhm.
the camera work in this, the cinematography has to be as emotional because it's tied to Charlie.
Yeah,
And Justin is a brilliant cinematographer.
absolutely. Now, Barbara, uh, the reason why you initiate the call to your daughter, Charlie, is really not just to check up on her. Your mother, Charlie's grandmother, died, okay?
Mhm.
And you really try to tell Charlie you don't need to come down for the funeral, okay? Like you sort of don't want her there
No.
because her lifestyle is
Mhm.
going to be an embarrassment to your other family or friends who are involved in the church, knowing that your daughter is a part of the LGBT community.
Mhm.
Okay? Your real intention for calling her is because you want the necklace
Mhm.
that your mother, her grandmother, gave to her, which is a, for lack of a better term, it's kind of a shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
That's a gift that was given to her by her grandmother, and now here
Mhm.
you are calling her, asking her to get it back because you want to bury your mother. Uh, how do you get into the mindset of how you really made us believe it when
Mhm.
you go through the motions? First, you call, start with small talk, then you let her know
Mhm.
about the death, and then ultimately you drop the hammer. I want the
Mhm.
necklace back.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it was all there in the writing, and so that gave me a template for what I was about to do. And again, I think I used, some stuff from my own relationship with my kids. My relationship with my kids is great, but I sort of had to imagine if it wasn't great, and moments when it wasn't great. I've had moments where, I had some issues with different kids for different reasons, and sort of tap into what that was.
Yeah, I mean, we're
And when
both
when my kids disappointed me,
Yeah, we're both
you know?
parents. I have three
Yeah,
teenagers. You have children. We know that it's not all rainbows and kittens.
no,
No.
no. And I think I'm luckier than most. I really think my kids like me. And I I mean, and my kids just went off to college recently, my youngest. And I know a lot of my friends who are like, it's a relief that their kids are gone. It's hard being a parent, and
It's
they wanted a
yes.
break. It's hard, you know. Um, but I miss my kids terribly because I have a really good relationship with them. And I'm empty nesting, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time with it, I'll admit. But I've, as good a relationship as I have with my kids, I've had moments where I wanted to shake them,
Oh yeah.
because of different things that have gone on. And you just have to tap into those moments to be able to, you know, uh, be, again, we're talking a lot about authenticity, to just be as authentic as possible. Um,
When you were reading that part of the script, did you think to yourself, "Wow, that's a really crappy thing for a mother to do to a daughter"?
yes, of course. Yes. Horrible.
It is.
I don't like my character in this movie. I can understand her, but and I have to find ways for her to be able to justify what she does, because every character can justify
Yeah.
what they do. Just like every person in life can pretty much justify what they do, even if they have a second thought about it later, or they think, oh, why did I say that to that person? I shouldn't have said that. And really, probably after the call, even, my character would say, oh, why was I so hard on her?
Yeah.
I ended the call like we've always ended. I mean, we just don't connect. And how terrible is that? And, I'm sure she has moments where she feels bad about that, but she can't help herself.
No. No. Yeah.
And
It's
that's just it. Is so many of the characters, finding the way to ground these characters is finding the story around the scene. Like who is
Mm-hmm.
the person
Right.
that isn't this moment, because we all have bad moments.
yeah.
No matter
Yes,
our
that's right.
intention, no
Mm-hmm.
matter our preparation, people, we get caught up in the moment and we say the wrong thing. And I don't know a single person that hasn't sat in the shower and been like, well, what I would have said was this, like we all.
It's all regrets. You have regrets after, but you can't put, you can't, it's spilt milk. You can't put it back in the bottle. Now, Emily, I would think now with this movie coming out, and you were fantastic acting in it, that are probably finding yourself at a little bit of a crossroads. Okay, you are going to get recognition for your work as an actress in this film. You are going to get recognition for the writing and directing. Moving forward, for your career in particular, is it acting that you want to pursue more of? Is it the writing? Is it directing? All three? What do you want to do moving forward?
Yeah, do you want to repeat this process? What do you think? How was it really?
I don't want to repeat this process. That's a great question, and something I think about as well. But honestly, I'm never going to be able to leave acting. I love acting. Acting keeps me in the mix. Like, it keeps me active. You're constantly pinging off of someone else. You're getting better. It's playing tennis. Like, if you play tennis with Barbara Crampton, you're going to become a better tennis player. Yeah. So that just keeps me fresh, and that keeps my writing fresh. Ultimately, thankfully I have a few projects coming up this year already, and I'm excited to see if any more come. But
didn't you just act in something that it's a secret now? You can't tell people, but didn't you just do something that somebody said they were using you for a movie, and I forget who that was?
Yes. You and I talked about that. That should be. I'm not allowed to talk about that yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But I've been pinged for a couple of projects. That one as well, Barbara. I know what you're talking about, and yes. So I very much look forward to that. So I am not stopping acting by any means, but I am a writer. I have 8, 9, 10 feature film scripts that I've written solo. We continue to write. I look forward to becoming a full-time writer and director, honestly. And I will appear in various projects. I will be a little choosy, but I think, like Barbara is with her career, I think being choosy about your projects is a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
And I love writing and directing, though. I love actors. I love working with actors. It's just so much fun, like creating that. And I think I bring something different to writing and directing. So I don't hope to always be like a triple threat, as I've been called before. So I look forward to exciting roles, and I really look forward to developing my writing and directing career.
Justin, how would you describe working with Emily in the writing process?
It's so funny. I feel like people get annoyed. It's so easy. It's so easy. It's funny, after we finish this film, the thing people really want to hear is they're like, tell us about all the
how much
dirty
did you fight?
Fights.
Yeah.
It's not. Emily and I are very different filmmakers on our own. We have, in preparation for Alone with You, we both directed our solo shorts, kind of to get ourselves ready for doing a feature. And they're two very different films. Both films come out on the Alter YouTube. Yours is in February?
Yeah, so the two shorts that we shot right before Alone with You during the pandemic, Justin's film is called Pains. I star in it, of course. That's hitting Alter in March. I think they just changed the date, but it's in March. And then mine is Bed, premiered at Fantasia, and will hit Alter February 10th.
Yeah,
Nice.
but when you watch those shorts, you'll see they're very different filmmakers, and what we make together is different all its own. So it's actually really fun for us to go down that road, because we make films that we would not otherwise make separately. And that's a lot of fun. And honestly, it's strange. We do have a shorthand. We just we work very well We work very succinctly. And when we
Mm.
do disagree on stuff, it's never emotional. It's all very practical. And then we need time to step away, think about the story, and we'll come back and be like, you know what, your way in is actually more practical. That makes more sense.
Mm.
Or, mine will work. And so it's a lot of fun. I usually describe it as writing with Emily is a lot like play. It's just, there are times on our other feature script, Kept, there were literally times where I am on the floor with Emily pretending to strangle her and be like, and then he'll do this, and then you would go here.
And I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah.
hold on. And then I have to go write it down.
And it's a lot of fun.
That
So
sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time. Barbara, I want to ask you the last question. You've been in this business, like you said, for 40 years. You're a legend in entertainment. You're a legend in the horror community. Horror fans, they absolutely adore you. How important is it to you to help up and coming
Yeah.
filmmakers
Hmm.
when you get a script that you like, that
Hmm.
you agree with, even if
Hmm.
you've never even heard
Hmm.
of the filmmakers, okay? But
Yeah.
you know that if you go in their film, it's gonna boost it up tremendously just having the name Barbara
Hmm.
Crampton in the credits. So basically, the question is, how big of a love do you have for the independent film industry?
I mean, I do. I think I said it in the beginning of our chat here,
Yeah.
is that it's, I think I've been doing that since the very beginning, from Stuart Gordon to, Adam Wingard to Brandon Christensen to now these guys and a few others in between. It's really important to me to help the independent filmmaker illuminate their story and tell their story. And I feel, like I want, that's everything I'm doing.
Yep.
I mean, so I'm going to keep doing that. And if I read something and I feel like it's not quite there, I'll give notes on a script and say, I just, and that happens to me a lot,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And I'll say, look, you can take my advice or leave it, but this is what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this, blah, blah, blah. I think you should do this. It's just my opinion, but
Yeah.
I think that will make your script better. And then potentially, because it's not just about having a great story with great characters. It's also about how are you going to navigate this space of independent filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody sent me a script recently, and it was a horror comedy, and it's really clever and well written and very wordy, and also a lot of locations. And I said, this is more like television because it's very wordy. Film is more visual, so you need to cut your dialogue down, and you need to cut your locations because you're only going to have
It's called
a
more cost
little bit of
money.
money to
Yeah.
shoot this.
Mm-hmm.
And it really hadn't occurred to this gal. She's like, oh yeah, I mean, and then there's a couple of other filmmakers that I've been working with for 2 years, and I don't know if I'm going to be in their movie or not, but I'm helping them along the way. I'm giving some advice. I can't keep doing that because I have my own projects that I'm also trying to navigate and trying to develop as well. But if I have time, any sort of help again, it's just my opinion of what I think. Surrounding yourself with good people, good producers, being able to shoot in a state where you're going to get a tax credit. Where are you going to go and try to pitch this movie? Where, different film festivals that you need to target. I mean, there's so much more than just writing a script.
Yes.
There's so much more that I've learned really from a lot of other people, even
Yeah.
in the last 10 years, because when I was first starting, I was just an actor and I stayed in my lane, but now I know a little bit more
Oh, yeah.
about things. So if I can help people, I try to. But that's my whole career, is working in
That is
independent
what
cinema.
makes you the consummate professional that you are today, and the brilliant career that you've had and are having. So we're out of time. You guys have been great. This hour has just flown by. Guys, again, the
Hmm.
movie is called Alone with You. I'm assuming the theatrical release is going to be limited. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Justin?
yep, limited theatrical on February 4th.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to be in attendance in Brooklyn. It's playing at Film Noir on February 5th as well. And we will
We'll be
be
there,
at
yeah.
the 7 p.m. show in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So
Oh,
come
that
to-
is so
Mm.
awesome. Coming from a native New Yorker, I think that's kick ass. So, Alone with You Guys is the name of the movie. Limited theatrical release November 4th. You don't have to wait long, 4 days later. It's coming out wide on video on demand. It's a great movie. You don't want to miss it. A lot of twists and turns. And I know a lot of you, well, most of you have not watched the film because it's not out yet. If you come
Mhm.
back and see this interview again, a lot of it's going to make sense after
Mhm.
you watch the film. I want to thank Justin, Emily, Barbara Crampton, of course. You're great as always. I want to thank all our viewers who are tuning in live and those who are going to watch this later on recorded. Any final thoughts you guys want to share before we go?
I'm excited
Yeah.
for everybody to see the film, really.
Yeah, and thank you, Barbara, for everything you do for independent cinema.
Absolutely. And that goes not only for Justin and Emily, it goes for the fans too.
Yeah.
You are a great inspiration for the whole
Mhm.
horror community. So thank you on behalf of the horror fans out there.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, on behalf of Justin, Emily, and Barbara and myself, stay safe and stay walking. Bye, everybody.